afternoon, everyone. This is our monthly budget and finance meeting. We have our normal group attending. We have Trista Hudson, our accountant, clerk treasurer, Meg Collins, I'm here. Laurel Kaczynski is here, Anita Remigis, Joe Jogman, chief, and one audience member. So our monthly statements we are working on, they're mostly completed. We figured sending them right before the meeting was not beneficial to anybody. So we will get those out this afternoon for council's review before Monday's council meeting. So anybody that would have a question before then, you can email or let us know somehow what your question is. And I think everybody's understanding more and more of the projections and, good things are happening, like receiving tax revenues. So we'll kind of get to that. Anything you want to add on statements? Okay, so capital assets, inventory and reporting, that is referring to our project that needs to be eventually submitted to the state. So Mark, we were going to just ask, and I meant to do this the other day, but just to see what you have in place. I know you said you guys have worked on it, a couple of the department heads. And does that include old items or just new vehicles, for example? Does it include the purchase price, the date, what specific information? So maybe I will get that from you. And then I also printed to bring today just what Gateway is looking for.
Sure.
Or information from us. And when auditors come, hopefully this year, we could at least have some progress on what we are doing towards that. So
if we could, I'd like to maybe sit down, if not later the next 2 days or next week, and kind of go through that with you. We've got probably 80% of the work completed. Street, water, police, fire. I know fire has an inventory. We just need to figure out if anything there needs to be on the inventory. I know a lot of the stuff is purchased by fire, but we can always get with Blake Applegate or one of the administrators there. Otherwise, we're in pretty good shape. Trista, the question that I had is we've been using the $500 or above for kind of the property tag for the inventory. Like a flashlight for $150 and that. We're not really tagging any of those items. Are we correct in doing that, or do we need to be specifically doing everything?
No, you're correct in that, but the most correct way, and I was looking before the meeting today, is to follow the ordinance. I'm not sure if the town has one. I can't find it.
I don't believe we do. That was going to be my next question, is we probably need to memorialize this by an ordinance so that we have established guidelines moving into the future.
So most cities and towns pick either 5,000 or 10,000 as a threshold. That threshold then dictates what is put on the capital asset list that gets reported to Gateway, which involves then depreciation over the years after the purchase is made. Items below that value, and that value will be up to council to decide. Items below that value do not need to be reported in this capital asset listing, but definitely should be considered within your town's policies as to how you keep track of it, right? Because even a $150 flashlight, we don't want walking home accidentally or on purpose with somebody never coming back.
Sure.
So you could still tag all of them and you could still keep track. We just wouldn't put that into this list. Sometimes the cities do use a different threshold if it's land versus equipment versus fixed asset items, such as buildings. I can give a couple different examples of those different levels, and then council can decide which way to go. Part of that ordinance then would also specifically, they'll call out your policy for computer equipment, which often is less than even a $5,000 value. Again, doesn't have to be reported through Gateway to the DLGF, but should be kept, even if you don't inventory the flashlights, definitely keep an inventory of the computer equipment so that laptops get returned, can be recycled properly, you know, both in financially and disposal and that, wipe clean and stuff. I think could be proposed on, let's see, the meeting's on Monday though, isn't it? That's pretty quick to do a first proposal ordinance. I think definitely for the July meeting though, could get that ready. And this background work of getting things inventory can continue in the meantime. If council was ready, they also could suspend the rules and then do second reading right away at the July meeting as well. Waiting until August would be okay. But at least, you know, moving progress in that direction will be important.
Quick question. I found one ordinance from a different town. Is this something we ask Chris to put together or something you guys?
We've got copies from
Examples
different
of-
places, and so it would be real quick, and
Start.
I'm sure Chris does too, so either way is fine. I can give you an example before we leave today. As a starting point, you can look through it and see what suggestions you have here locally.
Would it be a good idea to give those to Chris to look at? What do you, I mean,
The ordinances,
yeah, the samples that you have, Trista, would it be a good idea to provide those to Chris to just let him look? I mean, we
Yeah.
can decide numbers.
Ultimately, he'll review it for sure,
Okay,
yeah, before you pass it.
all right. Thank you.
Trista, the computers are all up to date. We have those inventory from, you know, monitors to the actual hard drives and that. The 5,000 and above last year with Michiana Insurance, we went through and we actually saw on our inventory, we had some trailers and mowers we no longer have. All those have been removed. Everything's been updated. So I'm very certain that vehicles, trailers, equipment, everything's done there. Computers are done. There's just a few outliers that we have to get, but otherwise we're in very good shape.
Okay, that's good news that you're that far started. And we need to include buildings, of course, as well.
The buildings,
Buildings.
not a problem.
Question, like at the community center, for example, I was trying to think of inventory, I don't have. Are you talking about like, we just bought new, not just, but we have new boilers, are the boilers, so there's two boilers. We put in that big cooling tower. So that would be another, but besides,
Depending on where those fell on the value, yes.
well, right.
Yeah.
It cost them, you know, over 5,000, okay, whatever I'm saying, what I'm talking about is over 5,000. But besides those two, the boilers and the cooling tower. And then, you have, like, and we were going around about that too, at another committee, but we have 23 heat pumps that are in the ceiling, and that's what, you know, brings the air conditioning, cooling, and, you know, now those are 25 years old. Now, how do you value what those heat pumps? Or do you have to even think of it?
So for something like that, we would at least need to go through the exercise of figuring out if we could value them or not. I kind of doubt we'd have a receipt from 25 years ago somewhere. It is possible to use a current replacement value and then kind of backtrack. I would think after 25 years, we will have well depreciated, but down to zero probably at least 10 years ago, if not more. So there are some guidelines and some processes available for that. And yeah, we at least need to walk through the exercise of it.
Well, just in my mind, just a couple of things I just. Okay. I don't think the town, you're talking about the town itself, owns much else. That's any one item is over $5,000. I mean, I don't, you guys have thought about it, but I don't think there's any. And the one thing that I just want to double check that I didn't miss the boat, I'm not doing this inventory. You're doing the inventory, okay, so we're not, our committee's not doing the inventory.
I'll work with Clerk Collins in getting everything she needs for the Gateway report as far as the facilities and that, and then also the equipment and then any vehicles. So not a problem. Meg and I will meet, we'll work on
Because, just so there's not misunderstanding, a lot of the things that are in the building are not owned by the town.
Right.
And the tenants and everything else, so that's what I'm saying, that's why I'm just thinking it through real fast and I'll stop right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could see Mark maybe needed to have a conversation with you just to verify some information, but certainly the responsibility to make the inventory is not on you or the committee.
Thank you.
Great. Capital plan update, that kind of rolls into the financials. Trista and I are going to update one last page after this meeting, just with some final bills on the bigger projects. And that capital plan would be distributed along with the financials. I think after our last month meeting, we left in a pretty good place with our capital plan with the changes that we made. So did anyone have anything to add or comments, questions on that?
I think since our last meeting, the only change I have is it'll be before the council on Monday. And I'll just round up, it'll be $139,000 for the F-550 snowplow truck for the street department that would be coming out of the leaf and garbage collection fund. That'll be back on the agenda for the council. I know initially, I think we had 140,000 budgeted, so we're below that. It'll come in just under $139,000.
I think we had 150 budgeted actually,
Okay.
at least a couple months ago. So,
And then I think at our July going into August meeting, as Meg and I talked the other day, we're, into halfway through the year, some of the capital, we probably won't meet on completing the expenditures on some things, which will be a positive because I know we've been crunching some numbers to keep the capital down. The only thing on the town building itself that I can think of is going to be that air conditioning unit. I'll be working on that over the next 30 days to narrow down the final price for that air conditioner. That's probably 25 years plus on the roof. I'll have hopefully those quotes within the next 30 days.
And I believe that was on the capital plan, whether it was,
It was.
and we left it on, right? Yeah, so that's good. Okay. Okay, unfinished business. So cash reserves and investment strategy for 2024. Come June 14th, the last CD investment of 500,000 is going to mature. And our plan is to flip it right away and reinvest. I believe that one is somewhat spread. We can look on the projections and see, but Tristan and I assessed probably a month or so ago which accounts we're going to pull some cash from. We're going to do that again based on the 20% threshold which Tristan will probably touch on in the resolution about investing that was passed by the prior council. So we're in a good place to reinvest some money, and keep making some interest. So that falls under my responsibility and letting you guys know that we are working towards that. And mid-June, in about a week and a half or two, I would let council know. Will we have that for Monday's meeting?
I think you can have the plan ready and you can share with them what you're thinking and
Otherwise we'll miss the council meeting because it's going to happen in June,
right.
right? As opposed to July.
So resolution 2023, number 10, was passed last year and sets out reserve and liquidity policy. The 20% Meg referenced was as to the general fund specifically that council looks to achieve, excuse me, at least a 20% cash balance. And the best time to look at that cash balance is May and November, just a few weeks before you receive your next tax draw, to make sure that you do have enough cash there to cover any last minute emergencies or something before your main bulk of revenue comes in. The reason that the council last year did not include other funds in that kind of percentage suggestion or goal was that the more minor funds have a variety of revenues that come into them and a variety of use reasons. So the MVH restricted fund, for example, that only can be used for paving or major road repair, and which fund you only receive about $25,000 a year revenue, you really don't want to tie up 20% of that kind of fund and not be able to dump that back into your road repair projects. So each fund is looked at in that kind of analysis. And at present, the way the resolution is set up is that it's the general fund that has that 20% requirement. The rest of the resolution discusses being liquid, being in state qualified investment institutions. And of course, Meg will follow all of those as she looks to invest that portion.
So I'm getting weekly CD rates from Horizon emailed to me. Trista gave me advice that I will check with 2 other banks, maybe Fifth Third, on their rates. The CD rates are making more than our checking account. The CDs hover around 5%. Our checking account is maybe 3.4. And then I may look into a state option just to see. If we didn't do it through Horizon, the process would change slightly on how I would, work with that bank to accomplish this laddering that is kind of our goal, to keep these investments going with the available cash that we have. After talking with Horizon, I've got the process down for how it works with them. I don't even need to sign anything. We redeem the open CD, we reinvest as I direct. And Horizon gives me a CD receipt showing what it was received at. So I think thanks to the prior getting it going, it's probably a little easier for me in that way. And I've got Trista to help me since it's under my purview. And then just let council know what we are going to decide to do.
Question? I remember, and probably was maybe even months ago, but that one gentleman that comes in once in a while, I can't remember his name. Yeah. And he did mention, that maybe at that time in the frame, that the Treasury in the US were pretty lucrative and better, and they're quote unquote a better risk than the CD. And have we looked at the US, and is it as good as bad, or is that worth even looking at?
I did talk with Carl about this. He obviously has more experience than I do in these things. He doesn't either have too many clients that use the T-bills as investments. It's slightly more complicated than simply having Horizon start the CD. It's certainly not a barrier. It's just a little bit different process. The only reason that a CD would be at risk would be if the bank completely failed. The town is covered under FDIC, banking regulations. So I don't have any qualms whatsoever in suggesting that the CD is a good investment for the town. It is one of the few statutorily appropriate investments that a town can make under the state statutes. One of the other ones is the state investment pool, which sometimes can earn a little bit better interest because there's a larger pool of money coming in. We just need to look into that option to see, again, the process of that, and to know, I guess, really how accessible it is. With a CD, if something were to suddenly happen in the town and we needed to cancel that CD early, we know exactly how to accomplish that and what the penalty might be, losing the interest or what have you. I just don't know what that answer is on this investment pool, so I need to find that out to be able to help Meg make the best informed decision on that. I don't know the current rate of the T-bill as it compares to these CDs. We could certainly look into that so that Meg has that information.
I just remember that from the previous meetings and
Yeah,
thank you.
Can I make that comments, please? This is Zafar Rizvi.
Hi, Safar, we can hear you.
Yeah, like a T-bill rate is today is a 5.38. And you can invest for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, there's a different rates. And those rates, T-bill is the safest investment you have. I think there's some mention about the CD. CD is insured up to $250,000. Town or anybody else, if that bank goes bankrupt, and there's a lot of banks are failing every single day, small banks, and even a larger bank has failed. So I think if that happened, ultimately you will probably get your money back because the government normally acquire that bank, but it could take 6 months, could be take a year, and that can happen. So I think investment in T-bills, I can introduce you a person to call you, Megan. You can discuss whenever. It's a very simple process. He will take the money from your account, invest it in T-bills, and when the T-bill is matured, he will send the money back. And if you want to invest further, you can invest it. If you don't want to invest further, or rate is not acceptable to you, then he will leave the money back. And it doesn't cost you anything. He makes his money in during the transactions between the two, when he take it out and make that money. So you can really do that. I can honestly tell you, we have invested up to $300 to $400 million back and forth on different time. And I personally oversee that investment because it's a lot of money. So there is really better way. 0.38 is a huge, when you invest $1 million or $2 million or $3 million or even $10 million I don't know how much the town has, you will certainly will benefit, and it is the safest investment you can invest. And I can introduce you. You can talk to that person and see if you like that. If you don't, you can say no. But you need to really explore that. It will benefit the town.
Thanks, Safar. I'll try and look into that, and then if I have questions, I think I still have your number probably, so I can give you a call. But that will make that part of our research.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, everyone's good on that. Rainy day fund transfer. Tristan and I were talking, and the final big projects are wrapping up. It seems like that water project, it may take 1 to 3 months, hopefully not longer, to see the final bill for Woodruff's. The public safety, we already know that's going to be paid and finishing. So after these water projects are paid, we know the change orders for the step 1718. We're hoping by September that we would be able to see how much we want to move to rainy day. I think we're all aware that that's our goal, what everybody would like to see. But again, we would wait until after the last big project and the bills are received and reviewed, if that's okay with everybody. Anything to add? Okay. Lakeshore Drive Sewer Project. Trista, we want to keep it in our purview, decided to keep it on here. I think we've asked Chris for a legal update, and we will give an update once we speak with him. And once we have that update, we can establish if we want to add this into the capital plan, how much, in what way. So anything to add on that?
just simply that the structure that's planned needs to relate to the legal status of what's happening. For the town to be, one, best responsive, and two, best stewards of the cash that we do have. and the plan that we do have to make sure that it all ties in well together.
Okay. Timing of bill payment. We did discuss this maybe 2 meetings ago, and we discussed a $5,000 threshold for council approval, although council does approve many bills that are under $5,000 each month at their meeting. All of us, I think most of us received an email from JD. I think with him not being present today and the council and anyone that received that can review it, see what he sent. And then when he's here, we can discuss for a recommendation and further conversation on our processes. I think it's helpful for Trista to help in anybody's understanding of what the state actually requires and what we're already doing. And if we want to look into making any amendments to it, so.
Quick question, is there a simple way of saying what the approval process is? Like, comes in, gets stamped, who approves it, Mark Swistek approves it, you approve it, that's it, I mean, without getting into a lot of details, based on his email, what he's looking for.
I believe we have that, I think.
Right, I mean, you have
I believe it was given to me. I would need to find it.
No, I mean, no, I don't want to get into the weeds with it. It's just that there is an approval process. The invoice comes in and there's a stamp and it's approved and.
Yeah, Meg and her staff are exceptional, like with Laurel gets an invoice, Laurel will send it over to us. We'll take a look at it, see which account it comes out of, we'll verify that it was received and that the proper pricing's on there. I then will notate the account number, sign and date it, send it to them, and then they'll cross-check that to make sure that I have even put the proper account number on there. Because in some cases, they'll come back with a recommendation that we may be better using a different account number. So I think the communication between both of our offices is went well, and the process is working much better than a year previously.
And
I think, I'm sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna add that with the department heads being as involved as they are, maybe we're not as much in the past, but that all aids to a better budget process, and I will find that out when we go through it and come the fall, but even with Trista contributing to the budget last year in a great way, only small items have come up, so.
And I do think that one of the reasons for the email from JD was there was that issue with the check that it was written, it hadn't been approved and it was mailed. And I think then I'm speaking for him, but I know in a past discussion that wasn't any fault of the office through oversight and through making sure that there's an approval process. It was that the check was taken and mailed. So I just wanted to be, and certainly, thank you. It certainly seems like there's already quite an approval process in place. Thank you.
Most of the time, the department heads are really good about coming in, meeting with me, going through some of their expenditures or their invoices, and then we talk through which accounts they're gonna come out of as well, so. But they're doing well. They have really picked up, as Meg said, and being part of the process as well. Where before they would just run into Deanna's office, drop the invoices and head out the door. Well, now they're more involved in that, so, which we
And we're
appreciate.
still, even with the park board and the garden club, we're still kind of evolving those approval processes as well. And even the community center with Joe, he's receiving more invoices now. We're trying to be more transparent so that everyone's understanding, and with more communication, that there's less confusion or frustration about how bills are paid or where they're paid from, and just so everyone's on the same page.
Thank you.
The budgeting process and calendar with deadlines. So we're coming up to that time of, and again, this will be my first time being on the committee and going through this. If it makes sense for my office to provide dates and we go from there, is it Mark, myself, and department heads that will meet? I think I've looked to Mark and Trista on how you think this works the best, and even John Wall, who was part of this process as well.
I think this committee needs to be involved like we did last year. It's an integral part of the budget process. In advance of our meetings, this committee, I would like the opportunity to sit down with Meg and Trista just to talk about some of those big ticket items. Like, the increase in our information technology contract, mainly the contracts, the health insurance, the facilities insurance, those big, dollar items. Those are the ones that I would like to discuss with you guys to make sure that we have those budgeted properly. And then this committee, go through the budget process. I don't know if we necessarily need to bring in street and water again this year. I'll meet with them individually, but I think we can almost, and I'll ask them if there's any modifications in their budget. But pretty much, I think we can run with the numbers that we have currently, without any increases unless I see an area that Tom or Greg want to increase. So I'll meet with them in advance, but I don't think we need to bring in, I think park department, maybe yes, would be a good one, because they're not here on a day-to-day basis. Community center, the ones that are kind of the outliers, I would recommend maybe inviting them to one of the budget meetings. So.
No, it's a dumb question. Should it say 2025 or should it say 2024 budget? How does that work? Are we doing the 2025 budgets?
Should say 25, probably,
Oh, yeah,
that to be
on the agenda.
decided for.
Okay, I was just, because I know the process is in 2024, but the budget that we're working on is in 2020.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
What? Go ahead.
So my only comment was, we made an effort or talked about an effort last year to maybe reduce some of these oddball budget line items that really weren't appropriate, that we didn't use them and they were just sitting out there. For instance, like the street budget, we were gonna try to combine some accounts so that there weren't so many flying around. I don't know if we made progress on that or we intend to, but I think that's a good effort.
Yeah, that's intended for this next one. We kind of needed a year of this year to be able to make those determinations because so I will certainly defer to Mark as town administrator and to Council Meg how they want to proceed with scheduling of the variety of meetings available. Last year, there was an important suggestion to have all the department heads come in, so there could be some conversation about the real money that really needed to happen in certain places. As compared to years past, where for a long time, Bill just went ahead and did it, which was fine. He was very informed. He knew what people needed, and then as transfers needed to happen, he would get that taken care of. But as moving forward with the new council, it was important to get the entire process with a little bit more accountability from all people involved, which is why then the department head meetings were suggested. I don't disagree with Mark's suggestion that he could, as town administrator, could meet with some of them and just bring that information to council. It's certainly not a problem that way. I've seen just in various conversations that they are very involved and responsive on their own budgets right now and their own management of it, so that's fantastic. So planning on that part, if we can circle back to that in just a moment, because I would like to get some dates situated. And it really, to determine how the dates need to flow, we really need to jump ahead to the very, very end. I mentioned before, I think that the budget needs to be approved by November 1st. For your situation as a town, you typically have only one meeting a month, which would mean that in the middle of October would be your October meeting, which would be the time that you would need to have your final vote on the budget. The budget process needs 2 council meetings, whether they be a council meeting and a special council meeting or both council meetings, doesn't matter, but the point is it needs to be presented twice. So we're looking then at having a first reading at the September meeting with a public hearing, and then the second reading and vote in October, which will work out fine. if you followed that pattern or that schedule, if for some reason council couldn't have decided by that mid-October on a particular piece of the budget, you would still have approximately 2 weeks to add in a special council meeting to then finish your final vote. So you do have a, emergency stopgap kind of naturally built in. If you didn't want to use a special council meeting at the end of October as a stopgap, then I would suggest that we would have first reading in August and second reading in September. In case you needed more time, you then would still have your October meeting. If you chose that second scheduling scenario, then some of these budget finance committee meetings and meetings with department heads need to start very, very quickly, because we do have to have advertised 10 days prior to that first reading all the information in Gateway, which means by the end of July, we have to have the proposed budget ready, which is in about 7 weeks. Now, it's very doable, especially if town administrator thinks that most of the budget is in pretty good shape and that there won't be a lot of changes that need to be had. So really today, you just need to decide as a committee how you prefer to suggest that budget to council. Council doesn't need to vote on the scheduling. You just kind of need to inform them that as the committee, you're suggesting this process to go. And I think they'll all be accepting of that. You'll make a good informed decision today on it. It would be nice yet before we leave today to then get set when the budget finance committee will meet with the department heads that you are going to meet with, such as parks and community center, those kinds of things. So that can get in the calendar. So we have a good goal line of when things need to be submitted.
So I have two quick comments. John, maybe you can answer this question. Does the budget need to be approved by a 5-0 unanimous vote? Or, I mean, because I'm thinking particularly of your schedule, Trista, which sounds very doable. September for the first reading, the final budget reading for October, and then it gives us another 2 weeks. So I just want to be sure, in light of some of the travel schedules of council members, that we don't need to worry about if we have to have a special meeting, that we would not be able to do something like that.
I think the only thing you have to worry about is your Zoom requirements. So some people have to, I think you have to have in person to pass that thing, if I'm not mistaken. They can't be on Zoom, I believe, to approve that budget. So the council just needs to understand that.
But it doesn't have to be 5-0. So if we only have 4 council members here, even 3, we could.
You just need a quorum and it needs to be the majority of the quorum.
In person, okay. My other question was, comment was, I really enjoyed last year when we met with all the department heads. I thought that it was very informative, I mean, for me, and so I like your suggestion. And then if you need me to reach out to Joy, I can, or if you just set your meetings, I'm sure Joy will be here. You were saying you want to set the budget and finance meeting today before we leave, which I think would be
It would be good.
Okay, thank you.
So when we're doing these meetings, is it just a simple get together or they have to be published?
Just like this
Zoom?
meeting.
Yep, okay. Okay,
And I'm looking at, for us to maybe bring in the park department, community center representatives, and then for me to have the information back on the other 2 departments. We're scheduled to meet again on July 3rd. I don't know if you're gonna want to meet that week because of the holiday week, if you want to postpone that meeting. I'm available, but I just know probably for like meeting with park department staff and that, Zach probably won't want to meet during that week. I know typically he has family and.
Yeah, I'll be out of town
Yeah,
on an actual vacation.
yeah, I think we should just move that. That's the day before the 4th. I'd say we'll just move that.
what if we did like July 16th, it's a Tuesday.
That makes me a little nervous that we're getting so
Too
close
late.
to August.
Okay,
What about June 26th, the week before?
June 26th.
And this is a meeting to talk with, to hear from parks and community center and such. Is that what we're scheduling right now?
Yes,
Okay,
no, that'll work, Trista. June 26th, that's a Wednesday. Do you want to do the morning, the afternoon on that?
whatever works for the group.
I think just conscious of workers, so if it's going to, yeah, if it's gonna go past normal hours, then let's make it a little earlier.
I'm sorry, what time?
When did you guys do them in the past? Morning?
Yeah.
9 o'clock? Okay,
So 9 AM?
June 26th, 9 AM. And then is it my responsibility? I'll meet with Mark and Trista on what we need to prepare and bring for that meeting. I will put it on the calendar. Mark, do you want to work together to let department heads know?
I'll reach out to them.
You will, okay.
Mark, if I remember correctly, when we were in China, we brought each group in separately, so we staggered their time.
Yeah, half hour in between.
Yeah.
Okay,
And Mark, I've got started those, what the DLGF calls the Form 1, the list of expenditures, that worksheet, the Excel worksheet. So I'll get those to you
Okay.
for the departments to use to make their notations.
Okay,
and we're looking to get those to them soon so that they have it filled
Yeah.
out for the meeting.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And ideally return to us about a week before the meeting so that we can have it prepared in a packet. So the committee has it ahead of time to glance through a little bit and have available to ask questions. So that turnaround will all happen very quickly here in the next couple of weeks, but I think it's doable, especially Mark, if you're thinking mostly a no increase type budget focus, other than possibly raises and some inflation type costs.
Yeah.
So I think that quick turnaround in the next 3 weeks is doable.
okay.
Um,
Joe, does the 26th work for you at 9 AM at the community center? Is that date for good for you?
9 AM.
Means coffee early. So you'll be one of the people I'll have to reach out to, so have Doug and yourself available. But yeah, and I'll get with the others, the June 26th works, 9 AM.
Now, is that sufficient to schedule that one meeting, or do we need to
No,
look ahead from there as well? Say it one more time,
One meeting, we'll
and
probably
then we'll
go
schedule the next one at that June meeting.
next budget.
Third, we need to reschedule.
Well, I'm just looking ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, your
So-
regular budget meeting,
So is the June,
June 26th.
Going to
Do
be-
the department head reviews, budget input for 2025. Set aside like 9 to 11 that day. I think within an hour and a half to 2 hours, we can finish that. And then look at your July 3rd meeting. If you want to move that to a different, because Trista, you're gone, you said, correct?
I will be gone that week.
The 10th I cannot do, but then I could do into the following week, except the 17th, we have an HR meeting at 1 in here. Unless we did the morning of the 17th, but I'm totally open. Whatever works for you guys.
When is the HR meeting?
HR, I have down July 17th, 1 PM in here.
So JD is usually here for that. Is he on budget? Yeah. What if we did?
11? Oh, that's fine with me. Trista, does that work for you?
That's fine.
So July,
17th.
So we're gonna move the meeting on the 3rd then.
July 3rd, yep, I'll notice both of these. And then July 3rd, we'll just call it moving. Monthly meeting, moving.
And for the 26th, would we get to publish that too? As a company?
Probably,
Has to be probably one person in the city here.
Yeah, so a workshop, but yeah, should be noticed.
What time is your 17th meeting?
11.
Thanks.
And I texted Julie about June 26th from 10 to 11, so.
Yes.
Okay, so. And then in your experience and expertise, are these 2 meetings sufficient for right now? Or look ahead?
I think for right now, I think you probably, the Budget Finance Committee would probably meet once more in August to narrow down a little bit, probably focus in on if you can afford raises, exactly how much they will be, kind of the last final tweaks of things. You could probably wait until the July 17th meeting, though, to schedule that in August. And then plan for September, October being the council meetings.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody comments? Any new business to add? I think that we covered a lot of items here, which was good.
You just have one person on Zoom.
Yes, any Zoom comments? I know we heard from Zafar already. Otherwise, we will end the meeting at 1:50 p.m. Thank you, everyone.